There's a very interesting development, which is that Donald Trump has a serious primary challenger. Now, let me sort of explain what I mean by serious. By serious, I don't mean someone that has any chance of actually beating Donald Trump in the Republican primary, but it's serious in that it's someone who is more of an actual Republican as far as the perception of him than William Weld, who's running against Trump. And his name is Joe Walsh. He's a former congressman. Joe Walsh told George Stephanopoulos on his ABC Sunday morning show yesterday that he is running for president in the Republican primary against Donald Trump.
The president points to often is just about every poll shows more than 80% support for the president among Republicans.
They don't have an alternative. I'll tell you what, George, and look, I'm running because he's unfit. Somebody needs to step up, and there needs to be an alternative. The country is sick of this guy's tantrum. He's a child. Again, the litany. He lies every time he opens his mouth.
Now, everything is working against this guy. Okay, Trump has a very high approval rating among Republicans, but not as high as Trump thinks. Trump says it's a 95% approval rating. It's more like 80, according to a new Associated Press poll. Walsh has a lot of exploitable personal issues, including allegedly being a deadbeat dad. The Republican National Committee isn't going to support a primary challenge to Donald Trump. But, and this is the dream, Joe Walsh might be able to get in the way just enough to become an annoyance to Donald Trump, which would be really great. Trump has a high approval rating among Republicans, but it's not set in stone. Many Republicans say they support Trump merely because they don't like Democrats, and it's their way of showing it. But there is 21% of Republicans that already does not support Donald Trump. And that is a fifth of the party that might be interested in an alternative Republican to Donald Trump. The RNC won't support a primary challenge, but they don't even really need to, because the goal here is not to beat Trump in the primary, in the same way that the goal of an impeachment inquiry isn't to remove Trump before 2020. The goal of all of these ideas is to weaken Donald Trump. So do we on the left want people running against Trump from within the Republican Party? Absolutely. The stronger they are, the happier we are to see it. Democrats can just keep running their primary. And meanwhile, anything that could weaken Donald Trump is a good thing. Walsh running against Trump might lead to some money being spent that otherwise wouldn't. An impeachment inquiry would replace some Trump campaign media stories with some impeachment inquiry stories, and that could damage Donald Trump. Remember, 2016 was decided by 70,000 votes in 3 states. Any of these things that could weaken Donald Trump or interfere with Donald Trump being able to set the narrative, we should welcome and we should encourage. This is Donald Trump's strength. When he sets the narrative and gets the media in a frenzy, gets them spending 3, 5, or 7 days on something that Trump benefits from, or at least that Trump would prefer they focus on other than some more damaging thing, that is good for Donald Trump. Joe Walsh is a disgusting ideological clown. He's completely unqualified to be president of the United States. But Republicans already voted in a guy who's completely unqualified to be president. By all means, have at it, Joe. See what you can do. See what amount of support he can pick off from the Republican Party. And by the way, don't forget, and this is like the dream scenario, if Joe Walsh can get some traction with the fifth of the Republican Party that doesn't approve of Trump. Again, latest poll from the Associated Press, 79% of Republicans approve of Trump. 21% don't. Okay, that's 1/5 of Republicans. If Joe Walsh can pick up 3% support, 5% support in the Republican primary, obviously he loses the primary. That may be enough. It may give him enough money. It may give him enough momentum to say, you know what, I'm going to run as a third party, because Joe Walsh has said he's a terrible guy, but he said he apologizes for his role in helping to elect Trump in 2016. If his goal is really to do anything he can to remove Trump, he might say, I'm going to run third party. And there, when you look at how close it was in so many key states, Wisconsin, Michigan, other states, Joe Walsh running as a Republican could actually, Joe Walsh running as an independent could actually take enough Republican votes away from Donald Trump that it flips one state to the eventual Democratic nominee, 2 states to the eventual Democratic nominee. So this is not strategy for the left. What we need to do is run a fair primary and then get people to vote. Get people to vote who otherwise wouldn't. Half the country doesn't vote. Find people who already agree with us. Tell them this was a very small margin in this state, in that state, in whichever state. You should vote. That's still our strategy. But if Joe Walsh is going to create an annoying distraction, like a mosquito that you just can't get to leave you alone for Donald Trump up until the Republican National Convention, and then might actually run as an independent, he could single-handedly hand a state or two to the Democratic nominee and conceivably turn this election. It might not happen. We should support it because it does nothing bad for us and potentially does some good things. It's an obvious dead end in what it is, in that Trump is going to be the Republican nominee unless he were to drop out or something. Who knows? But it is not a dead end in that it could have a real impact and really hurt Donald Trump in the eventual general election. If you disagree with me, tell me where I'm wrong on the numbers, okay? If you disagree with me for some other reason, I guess also let me know. But the real case I'm making is that mathematically this could have an impact that is not good for Donald Trump.